Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. The trees whizzed by in an indecipherable blur. Only the greenness of it all gave it away to the pathetic, beaten orange lump that piggybacked on the famous copy ninja as he launched himself from tree to tree. The path returning to Konohagakure was relatively short. They would make the village in a few hours. What bothered Hitaki Kakashi was the orange lump. He was just that, lumpy, immobile, not moving, dead-like. Normally one couldn't get Naruto to shut up and sit down without the aid of a vast supply of ramen, but now. Kakashi looked over his shoulder at Naruto, and then swiveled his gaze to Pakken, a stare that desperately sought the answers to it all. Shaking his head, the little ninja dog had nothing to offer. Any answers about Naruto's condition would not be forthcoming until the blonde-haired shinobi was ready. Until then, sir, an eager med nin shouted as his squad fell in beside him in the tree jumping. We have news about the status of the genin team sent to retrieve Sasuke. Kakashi shook himself from his thoughts and focused on the ninja. Report, was the taciturn command. Pakken shook his head. Some things never changed. Sir, the nin said yet again as Kakashi waited for him to expand his annoyingly short vocabulary. The genin have been recovered from various locations throughout the forest. Akamaiki Chuji is in critical condition. His body is deteriorating at a rapid pace, and he doesn't have much longer unless his condition improves soon. Hyuga Neji was found next. He has extreme tissue damage in his shoulder and extensively across his muscular system. He too is in critical condition, but shows signs of recovery. The med nin took a deep breath before continuing. Inuzuka Kiba, Rock Lee, and Nara Shikamaru were found to be in stable condition and were able to assist us in helping them return to Konoha. They will all need further treatment however except for Nara-san, who only suffered a broken finger. Kakashi chuckled inwardly at that. Kami-sama knows he probably defeated his opponent with his vastly superior logic and intellect. Few could match him in that area. Our allies from Sunagakure were extremely helpful in assisting Inuzuka-san, Lee-san, and Nara-san. They are waiting in Konoha and have suffered no injury. Kakashi smiled at this. Gondime-sama had truly brought Konoha into a position of strength once again. However, sir, the med nin repeated, what is Uzumaki Naruto's condition? Kakashi paused at this. Absent from the medical shinobi's tone was the condescension, hatred, or disgust usually present when the average person referred to the young Jinchuriki. Shaking the feeling off, he stated calmly, Naruto is suffering from physical and chakra overexertion. He has no serious injury that I can detect, but is rapidly losing consciousness. The med nin nodded gravely, and they continued in silence. During the report, Naruto was overwhelmed by his emotions. Pain and agony over the betrayal of Sasuke fought bitterly with the guilt quickly accumulating over his failure to make his friend's sacrifices worthwhile. If they die, he thought, it's all my fault. Just because I wasn't strong enough to break the bond like Sasuke team did. If they die because of me. He couldn't bear the thought any longer, and his mind began to shut down for repairs. As his eyes closed, his last sight was of his friends, his teammates leaping through the trees in front of him, looking back expectantly, waiting. Someone finally expected something great from him. Besides, Neji said, grinning. You have better eyes than me. Naruto beamed his fox-like grin. They knew he would succeed in bringing Sasuke home. It was his job, the reason he was brought along. And yet, he failed, and all he had to show for his effort was a symbol of his reluctance to act like a shinobi. The scratch across Sasuke's forehead protector was a sign that he could have killed Sasuke but didn't. Yet this didn't stop Sasuke from leaving, only from not killing Naruto. His last sight was of his friends. His last thought was worse, repeating like a mantra until he lost consciousness completely. Sakura-chan's gonna kill me. However, killing was exactly the opposite action on Haruno Sakura's mind as she stormed up the steps to the Hokage's office. Disgruntled was a mild way of describing her mood. Her normally perfect hair stood out in the strangest directions, her skin showed a lack of hygiene, she hadn't showered, and her eyes blazed with ruthless anger. Royally pissed was a better way of describing Sakura's mood. However, unlike normal situations, she refused to let her temper get the better of her. Acting with a cold and calculating attitude that would have shamed Orochimaru, she stalked towards the two special Junin outside the Gondaime's office. Sakura had learned 3 things in the span of a few hours, and they were pretty good lessons. 1. She had better chakra control than Hyuga Neji, but the stamina of a newborn baby, maybe less. 2. Naruto was infinitely more talented a ninja than she, and she knew why. A ninja had 3 basic moves: henge, bunshin, and kawarimi, transformation, replication, and replacement respectively. In these 3 areas Naruto had no equal, for his understanding of the techniques surpassed even hers, Sasuke-kun's, and Neji's combined. They were his main weapons, and combined with his quick-thinking tactical mind he was formidable indeed. I'm smart, she thought, why can't I think like a baka like Naruto? And finally, 3. She had to get stronger, and fast. Knowledge is power, many have said. She grinned. Tsunade-sama wouldn't know what hit her. Her mission was simple: become apprenticed to one of the most powerful ninja in Konoha, a legendary Sannin. The Junins tensed at her approach, then relaxed when they saw the not very intimidating approach of Sakura. One smiled and said kindly but firmly, "Sorry Haruno-san, but the Gondime isn't seeing anyone today." Sakura smiled and kept on walking, causing the Junins to fall into a ready stance. "Miss, please stop where you are or we will stop you." Sakura grinned again and took another step. With a yell, the 2 Junins leapt forward, kunai out and slashing to meet the obvious imposter. They sliced forward in unison, and hit nothing but air. The bunshin continued walking until it vanished in a merry burst of smoke, leaving 2 very wary and confused Junins who needed to get out more and hone their skills. For they failed to notice the outrageously pink-haired shinobi calmly enter the office of Tsunade, the legendary Tsunade was amused, if the curve of her pink lips was anything to go by. Reassured, Sakura closed her eyes for a moment to prepare her long and complex argument on why she should be trained as the next greatest medical ninja of all time. Satisfied, Sakura walked over to Tsunade's desk and slammed her palms down so hard that the dutifully ignored paperwork shook. "Train me as your apprentice." "Booyah!" Inner Sakura yelled. Tsunade opened her mouth, but at that moment a doctor appeared at the door, escorted by 2 harried-looking Junins. They glared when they saw Sakura, who only grinned cheekily in response. They snapped her attention almost immediately though, and the doctor stepped forward. "Gondime-sama, the medical team has returned with the Genin team. It has been suggested that you come to the hospital immediately where a full report can be delivered." He stared pointedly at Sakura, who had the grace to blush and look down. Tsunade sighed. "Sakura-chan, our conversation will have to wait. However, I have an assignment for you. Notify all the genin who know any of the following: Chuji, Neji, Shikamaru, Kiba, and Naruto. Tell him to report to the hospital in 3 hours. Sakura could only stare. She wanted to know what had happened on the mission, but realized that she would have to wait until she could visit Sasuke-kun and Naruto in the hospital. Hi, Gondime-sama. Sakura ran out. She knew exactly who she needed to find. Then, she could visit Sasuke-kun and Naruto. She didn't even think of the possibility that Sasuke-kun would actually go to Orochimaru. Orochimaru grinned. It was time to see what the Uchiha was capable of doing. He motioned, and Kabuto fell into step behind him. Sasuke stared for a moment, then quickly followed. Sasuke-kun, Orochimaru stated. You are the chosen one. Sasuke was emotionless. I don't care. Hurry up and give me power. Kabuto started, and leaned down to whisper in Sasuke's ear. You should know that that man in front of us is none other than Orochimaru-sama. You would be wiser to show respect. A second later, he pulled back as Sasuke flared his chakra briefly. It was enough to scare Kabuto away, and to get Orochimaru's attention. This boy's chakra is even more evil than my own, he mused. Oh, but the possibilities. Aloud, he said, Sasuke-kun, what would you do to attain power? Sasuke finally showed emotion. He smirked in the way only one who has nothing to lose can. Anime and manga. Anything. Orochimaru smiled again. This boy was quickly becoming his new favorite. Then again, he thought, that's not always a good thing. Chuckling quietly, he motioned Sasuke forward. He touched his cursed seal, and it flared violently, causing Sasuke in his exhausted state to fall to the ground writhing in pain. Sasuke, this seal marks you as my own. Whatever freedom you have is because I allow it. You are also the sole possessor of the cursed seal now. The snake Sannin neglected to mention Anko, but he decided it would be better if his plans for her were unknown to Sasuke. After all, if Plan A knew about Plan B, who knows what they might do out of jealousy. Unable to control himself, Orochimaru's laughter reverberated throughout the halls, while Kabuto and Sasuke could only wonder what caused such a reaction. Sakura raced through the streets of Konoha. She had already notified Shino and Tenten. The only two left were Ino Pig and Hinata. I wonder who Hinata will visit first. Neji, Kiba, or Naruto. She shook the thoughts away, though, she needed a clear head to deal with Ino, though admittedly that was becoming easier and easier since the Chunin exams. Sakura knocked once, twice, and then a third time just to be annoying. If the frantic thumping of footsteps approaching the door were any sign, she had achieved her goal. A very frazzled Ino answered the door, shocking Sakura immensely. She grinned evilly, seeing an opportunity. Geez, Ino. And here I thought you cared about your looks. Ino began to slam the door right on the oversized forehead when Sakura's hand shot out, halting its advance. Seriously Ino, I have important news. Ino was still wary, but stepped to the side. Seeing it as an invitation, Sakura stepped across the threshold and leaned against a wall. This better be good, forehead girl, Ino growled. I was about to take a shower. Thank Kami-sama, Sakura muttered. Anyways Ino, Shikamaru and Chuji have returned from their mission. Gondime-sama said we could visit them in 3 hours, but by now it should only be about 2. It was true. Finding Shino had taken the better part of an hour, and Sakura had been none too pleased at his nonchalant attitude about the inconvenience. Still have to find Hinata, Sakura thought. She'll want to see Kiba and Neji. Sakura ran hard. The sooner I find Hinata, the sooner I can see Sasuke. Booyah! Sasuke-kun rocks. What? Hinata exclaimed. What happened to Kiba-kun? Sakura saddened. This messenger business was wearing thin. Too much bad news delivery. Kiba, Naruto, Neji, Shikamaru, and Chuji were sent on a mission to retrieve Sasuke-kun. All were severely injured except Shikamaru, and Neji is in particularly critical condition, Sakura explained. Anime and manga. Hinata paled. Naruto-kun, Neji-ni-san, please be okay, when are we allowed to see them? Hinata asked quietly. Sakura smiled. Gondime-sama said they should be ready for visitors in an hour. It'll take that long to get to the hospital from here, why don't you walk with me? Maybe it will cheer her up. The poor girl looks devastated. Hinata smiled. Arigato, Sakura-san, I would like that very much. Naruto-kun. They walked down the street to the hospital, oblivious to the medical chaos ensuing at the hospital. Bring me the deer antlers, quickly. Tsunade shouted, immediately returning to her scrutiny of the massive medical textbook in front of her. She growled in frustration, then started when she noticed a book on the table that wasn't there before. A complete report of the Akamaiki soldier pills. She read aloud. By the Nara clan. Tsunade flipped it open, coming to a stop at a detailed picture of the red pepper pill which was rapidly killing Chuji. Tsunade grinned. Eureka, she whispered. Meanwhile, her assistant Shizune was having a rough time. Kanji littered the floor of the operating room, and the ninjas in the room positively glowed with green healing chakra. Neji's gaping wound in his shoulder should have killed him, but somehow he still showed life signs. Not wasting an opportunity, Shizune was assigned the task of mending the horrific gash. Pass your chakra through the hair like you were threading a needle. She shouted amidst the deafening hum of the Fuan Jutsu she had activated to preserve Neji's condition. One mistake could destroy the new cell's homeostasis. The med nins nodded. No words were spoken, there was work to be done. Warning, this is where the story will deviate from the manga, anime etc. Naruto will be a little OC, but it will define his character for the rest of the story. Anime and manga. Read on. Naruto stared at the Konoha Haitai in his hand and ran in fingers along the scratch he had etched across the leaf symbol. Rasengan. Chidori. He sighed. He had pulled his punch, but Sasuke team was too immersed in the cursed seal's corruption to rationally perceive that. He had left the Valley of the End with the notion that he had won the battle. He had lost. Horribly. Naruto glared at his now normal human hands, imagining claws extending from his fingertips. It would have been so easy, 2 inches higher or lower, and in exchange for Sasuke's punch to the gut, Naruto could have taken off his scalp or his jugular, leaving the traitor to bleed to a messy death. But I couldn't, he thought. I didn't want to sever the bond like Sasuke wanted to kill me. Now, though, Naruto imagined Sasuke standing before him, in all his arrogance and hatred. Naruto wanted nothing more than to plunge a kunai into his cold black heart. No more holding back. Next time I see that bastard I will kill him. That's a promise. I don't go back on my words. His musings were interrupted with a knock at the door. Puzzled, he remained silent, wondering why doctors chose now to knock before entering his room. Usually they just came in so they could treat his wounds, which were healing remarkably fast. Stupid fox is good for something, I guess, Naruto said aloud. Damn straight, Naruto. Do you have any idea just how badly you were injured? Naruto started at the voice, then turned to face a grinning Tsunade. Naruto returned the grin with a smirk. Oh, hey there Aba-chan. Against all odds, the legendary gave no sign that the jibe affected her. Instead, she sat down on the bed. Naruto waited expectantly. Tsunade noticed his uncharacteristic silence. Strange. He really is more thoughtful than I gave him credit for. Aloud, she began her prepared speech. Naruto, do you have any idea what Sasuke did to you? Naruto nodded. Sure, he began. He betrayed me and Sakura and the rest of Konoha. He put a 4-inch hole in my shoulder, broke about 6 ribs, and drove me to chakra exhaustion. That stupid bastard. And all for the joy of being Orochimaru team's new body. So hell yeah, I know what Sasuke did. Naruto realized that he was standing on the bed, and had just shouted at the Gondime Hokage who, if he played his cards right, might name him the Rokudaime. He sat down and had the humility to blush. Gamen, Hokage-sama. Tsunade stared once again. The loudmouth ninja who won her jade necklace from her was gone. He's still loud, if the ringing in my ears is any indicator. She thought. But this trauma changed him. Just like Jiraiya. She stood up abruptly, inspired. Naruto, there's someone I have to see right now, but I'm clearing you for visitors. Is that all right with you? Naruto sighed and looked out the window at the ironically beautiful day outside. Sure, but I doubt anyone will want to see a demon. Slap. Naruto stared ahead, shocked. Tsunade had just sent his head on a merry-go-round, and now she was pulling him into a bone-crunching hug. Oh, Naruto, she sobbed. Why can't people see you for the hero you are? You have to remember, you are not the Kyuubi. You are Naruto, and you have saved us all from that force of destruction. She pulled away and held him at arm's length. Promise me you'll never forget that. Then, she grinned crookedly. Besides, I lost my necklace to the future Hokage, not some demon bastard. Naruto smiled, eyes blurry, yet he refused to let them fall. He fingered jade pendant hanging around his neck, then said, I promise, Aba-chan. That's my Nindo. Tsunade smiled, and turned to leave. Besides, she said over her shoulder, I think you'll be surprised at who shows up here before the day is done. Anime and manga. Tsunade walked down to the lobby of the hospital, having just been told by Shizune that Neji was stabilized and that visiting could commence. But first, she groaned silently. I have to explain a few things to this. A veritable mob of genin and junin lingered in the lobby, talking. When they saw Tsunade, however, they immediately quieted down and turned to face the Hokage, who grinned weakly. Kurene fired the leading shot. Hokage-sama, why is my student currently in the hospital intensive care? Asuma followed up with a 1-2, and why are Chuji and Shikamaru injured? I heard from Ino that Chuji was just pulled from death. How was he almost killed in the first place? And finally, a vicious uppercut was delivered by the famous copy ninja. Where the hell is my team? Tsunade sighed and explained how she had asked Shikamaru to lead a team of exceptional genin to retrieve Sasuke. She then explained that all members of the team, including the sand team that she had begged, she didn't say begged, though she knew that she literally got down on her knees in the letter she sent to Gaara, had all come back alive and were well on the way to recovery. Kakashi still wasn't satisfied. I said, where the hell is my team? Tsunade looked down. Kakashi-san, you know very well that Sasuke has defected to Orochimaru. Naruto has suffered extensive injuries at his hands trying to bring him back. You know this, you carried him back yourself. She inhaled, and continued. Sasuke is now officially declared an S-class missing nin, to be captured or killed on sight. Surprisingly, there were no protests in defense of the Uchiha prodigy. Instead, much to her pleasant surprise, several of the Junins began grumbling until Kurenai said aloud, "Is Naruto going to be alright?" Several other Junins nodded in agreement, wanting to know how the Jinchuriki was faring. Tsunade was puzzled, to say the least. "Yes, he is going to make a full recovery. Why are you all so curious?" Asuma spoke up. "Well, the kid almost killed himself trying to help Konoha. That kinda improves his image in the minds of some people, you know. Mention his name on the streets, and you'd be surprised how many people have a different take on that kid." The Junins nodded in agreement once more. Tsunade turned away, hiding her tears. When she had reasserted control, she announced, "Now that this is over with, there's still someone I need to see. The genin are now seeing visitors." With that, she leapt to the ceiling as a veritable throng of ninja surged towards the infirmaries. Anime and manga. She scanned the crowd from above, feet firmly stuck to the ceiling, when she saw a flash of a white mane. Then it was gone, and the hospital doors swung shut. She grinned. She loved the thrill of the hunt. With a crunch, she propelled herself off the ceiling, flipping around in midair to land running out the door. Jiraiya was in for a doozy. The young genin decided that they would visit Naruto last since, by all accounts, he had had the worst time of it. Rumor had spread somehow that Sasuke had confessed that Naruto was his best friend, and then proceeded to try and carve his heart out. They all believed that Sasuke did not deserve visitors yet, and so they proceeded to see Naruto. Sakura led the way to Naruto's room, having just been told where it was by a particularly disgruntled nin. Sakura realized that all the hospital staff referred to Naruto as if the name had a bad taste to it. She shook it off as she almost took a wrong turn. "Focus, woman. Hell yeah, get your head in the game." She looked over her shoulder to see that the genin had kept up. She counted 'em all: Shikamaru, who was deemed well enough to make the rounds with them, Hinata, who looked ready to faint, Ino, who was staring ahead determinedly, and Shino, silent as ever. Sakura nodded in affirmation, then turned to open Naruto's door, which had suddenly appeared in front of her. "Why am I so distracted?" she wondered. "It's not as if something is WRO. How are you feeling, Naruto?" Sakura stayed her hand upon the handle. That was Tsunade-sama. With Naruto. She whispered this information and made the SSHH motion with her finger. She motioned again to the door, and the genin scrambled silently to listen at the frame. They were ninja, after all. Who could blame them? Besides, Ino whispered, "We all want to know if Naruto's okay, right?" Heads nodded their assent. And so they listened. And as they listened, their mouths slowly dropped lower and lower until they touched the floor. After Tsunade found Jiraiya and explained her plan, she immediately returned to the hospital to confront Naruto about his experience in the Valley of the End. She hoped he would be slightly less emotional than her last visit, but she didn't count on it. She still needed to know, however. Paperwork was a pain, but mission reports were top priority. So, she had began. "I want the details of your fight with the traitor." Naruto stared ahead stonily. Then, without looking at Tsunade, Naruto began his narration. "I confronted Sasuke when we stood atop the two statues at the ends of the valley." He paused, then regained his momentum. "I leapt across and punched him, but all he did was spit blood at me." At this point, half of Sasuke's face was affected by the cursed seal. One of his eyes was this weird yellow. He took a breath, and continued. "We fought for a little, but I held back because I didn't want to hurt him. Sasuke team took the opportunity to pound me into the ground. Eventually, I fought back. This was when he go-read me here with the Chidori. He pointed, and Tsunade shivered. Dan was killed by a similar wound. Naruto must have deflected it at the last second. Her attention was brought back to Naruto, who had continued saying, "That's when I summoned more of the Kyuubi's chakra than ever before. It healed all my wounds quickly, and allowed me to beat the crap out of Sasuke. But he activated the next level of his Sharingan, I think, because then he was able to follow my every move. I didn't land a hit on him again until he petered off, hesitating." Was it okay to tell Tsunade what happened next? Tsunade was now wondering. This kid's pretty eloquent. Was he faking stupidity this whole time? Was it all just a mask? She motioned for Naruto to continue. He started, but decided that he could tell her anything, and it would be okay. However, Tsunade-sama. She almost fainted at the name. It just didn't sound right coming from Naruto. He must want something truly important. Yes. He inhaled deeply. Promise me that you won't tell any of the other genin about this. She smiled. Of course not. But I expect you to tell them when you're ready. Agreed. He gave a fox-like grin. Agreed. He sobered up, and explained. Sasuke killed me, Aba-chan. He dropped me from the cliff onto the bottom of the valley head first. It snapped my neck. I remember it clearly. Seeing Tsunade's horrified look, he added, "It still itches, too. Anime and manga. Then, he scared her all the way to death. Then, Kyuubi overwhelmed me with power. The demonic chakra covered my body and made me a tail. From then on, there's this haze, but I used more chakra than my body could handle. It was like it had a life of its own, but I controlled it. Sasuke couldn't keep up, and activated his cursed seal so that he became this winged beast. It was horrible, but I'm in no place to comment, nay." He sighed. "The rest, you already know. We went at it with our best attacks, and I pulled my last punch so I wouldn't kill Sasuke." He glared suddenly. "I regret it now. I'm not gonna go after him and become like Sasuke team, but if I see him again, I will kill him." Sakura slumped to the ground, tears pouring down her eyes. The other genin, shocked into silence by the knowledge they had just gained, could only listen to Naruto's final thought. "And that's a promise." Sakura gasped, then eeped as Ino's hand clamped over her mouth. Hinata shook her head, deactivating her Byakugan. "It's too late," she said softly. "Hokage-sama knows we're here." The genin exchanged scared looks. When she heard the noise, Tsunade started suddenly, then glanced at the door. "Oh no. What is it, Ba-chan?" Naruto asked cheerfully. "Someone steal your sake." He frowned as Tsunade turned to face him, a look of utmost sorrow upon her face. "Aba-chan?" he asked fearfully. "Naruto," Tsunade said. "Go open the door for me, will you?" Puzzled, he got up, wincing, and crossed to the portal. He pulled the latch and opened the door. He stared. Shikamaru, Shino, and Ino watched as his breath ceased. Hinata locked eyes with him. "Naruto-kun," she whispered. He turned his gaze to Sakura, who cowered under his glare. Red chakra seeped out of his skin, visible to all. He crouched, snarling. As he did, he saw the faces of his friends, the precious people he had come to rely on, more so than Iruka, Kakashi, or any of his senseis. They were his age, blissfully held unaware of his terrible burden by the Sandaim's law. But now, they knew. He saw their faces. He saw their fear. Wait, fear. Not anger, or betrayal, but fear. Naruto almost halted in midair, rapidly ending his forward charge with a burst of chakra. He landed, a glare still evident on his features, but held in check. Barely. He released the Kyuubi's chakra. That is, he fought it back into his system, and with a wince returned to normal. He stood erect, all traces of red gone from his cerulean eyes. He stared at the genin. They stared at him. Tsunade sighed once again. Was there no end to the suffering for this boy? The cleared her throat, and 6 heads whipped around to stare at her. She glared at 'em all. Well, you might as well come in and sit down, before Naruto tears your heads off. Ino gave a nervous giggle, but the rest remained silent as they walked into the room and sat on the only other bed in the room. Tsunade stood by the window, ready to intercept Naruto if he tried to attack again. Shikamaru's formidable brain was working overtime trying to make sense of the revelations that had been made. We had always been told that the Kyuubi was killed by the Yondaime, who sacrificed his life to save Konoha. But apparently the Kyuubi survived and is in human form. No, that doesn't make sense. Naruto is too generous and determined to be the Kyuubi. Which means, his musings were interrupted by Ino, who dragged him in and sat him down next to her on the bed. Troublesome. Shino stared at Naruto, silent as ever, though it seemed he was content to wait and listen. Ino stared at the floor, ashamed of her actions. Hinata stared at Naruto openly, a slight blush staining her cheeks. Naruto-kun, please don't be angry, we just want to make sure you're okay. Sakura stared at Naruto as well. Her inner persona was, for the first time anywhere, lacking the words to say, having been shocked into silence. Amazingly, Hinata broke the silence. Naruto-kun, she began, but started as Naruto whipped his head up to gaze at her levelly. She aired in a breath and continued. We just wanted to see if you were doing better. We all care about you, Naruto-kun. I wish I could tell you just how much. She sighed. We're sorry for eavesdropping. Shino and Shikamaru nodded assent, while Ino blushed. Sakura remained silent. Something had been ignited within her, something that frightened her, yet exhilarated her at the same time. She waited to hear what came next. Shikamaru addressed Naruto directly. Naruto, we're your friends. You have done so much for Konoha. We won't think any less of you no matter what you tell us. On my first mission, you tried more than anyone to make it a success. So please explain what you and Hokage-sama were talking about. Naruto's gaze had softened when Hinata spoke. She had touched the core of his soul, and he was thrilled. She always knows how to lift my spirits, he thought, thinking back to the Chunin exams. Shikamaru was right again, he realized. They were his precious people for a reason, they were strong. They were his friends. Naruto wiped away his tears. In a subdued monotone, he told the story of how the Kyuubi was essentially immortal. How it could not be killed. How the Yondaime, his hero, had sealed the demon inside Naruto's stomach, sacrificing his life to save the village. He told how Arashi had wanted Naruto to be accepted as a hero. He told them how, instead of accepting him, he was shunned. How parents refused to let their children play with him. How villagers would beat him and throw things at him. He stopped as he realized that the 3 kunoichi were in tears, and that Shino and Shikamaru were staring open-mouthed at him. He looked away, embarrassed, then suddenly lifted his shirt and channeled some chakra. The genin watched, amazed, as the seal which imprisoned the Kyuubi appeared on his navel. Naruto released the chakra and waited. Shino collected his wits. Naruto, I do not know you as well as the others do. But I can say this, I have not seen anything from you that is not worthy of the burden the Yondaime put on you. Naruto's face fell, but Shino said, "The Yondaime chose wisely when he selected you to bear the Kyuubi. I give you my thanks, Naruto-san, for your sacrifice." Naruto stared, and nodded his thanks to Shino, gratified that at least one had accepted him again. Ino sputtered, "Well, duh. I mean, he kicked Neji's butt in the Chunin exams. Of course Naruto's amazing." He blushed, but started at the sound coming from Hinata. "Naruto-kun," she began. "You are truly strong. I can't believe that you haven't destroyed this village and everyone in it for what they did to you. Yet you persevered. I can only hope that we can help you in the future. You are stronger than anyone I know, and I am proud to know you." She finished, blushing. Naruto almost wept right then and there. He glanced at the floor, then met Hinata's pearl-eyed gaze. "Beautiful," he thought, then shook it off. "Arigato, Hinata-chan," he mumbled. Hinata simply turned beet red at the chan suffix recently added to her name, and could not reply. Naruto turned to the only one who had not yet spoken. Sakura rose from her seat and approached Naruto. "So the Kyuubi, the nine-tailed demon fox that killed my father and dozens of Konoha ninja, is inside you." He nodded dumbly. Sakura knelt down in front of him and sent a hand towards his face. Naruto shut his eyes, bracing himself for the slap that would cause him more pain than 1,000 Chidoras. However, he blinked rapidly when he realized that she was tracing the whisker marks on his cheeks. "Sakura-chan." He stammered out, blushing, until he was pulled into a bone-crunching hug. "Oh, Naruto." She sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I've treated you like trash all this time, and you had already suffered so much." She hiccuped and ceased sobbing, though the tears still fell. "I'll make it up to you, I promise. Can you forgive me?" She looked into his eyes, pleading emerald meeting ice-cold blue. Naruto suddenly grinned. "Of course, Sakura-chan." Sakura gave a little laugh, then stopped when she remembered the last thing Naruto said. "I regret it now. I'm not gonna go after him and become like Sasuke team, but if I see him again, I will kill him. And that's a promise." Sakura backed away from Naruto and sat down. "Naruto, if you see Sasuke again," she began, not realizing she had dropped the kun suffix. "Are you really going to kill him?" Naruto looked down at his bandages, then back at Sakura, ignoring the others. "Sakura-chan, I'm not going to hunt him down or anything." Sakura breathed a sigh of relief, but caught her breath at his next words. "But if I meet him again, then yes. Yes, I will kill Sasuke team if I have to." Sakura looked deep into Naruto's eyes, and realized that there was no stopping the blonde shinobi. "Besides," he promised. "Okay Naruto," Sakura said. "But when you do meet Sasuke, I will be with you. You won't have to do it alone. This I promise." Naruto was shocked by her words, but even more so when Shikamaru said, "Naruto, I'll be right there with you. Can't leave you to such a troublesome confrontation alone with just a woman to help, can I?" Though Ino shot him a glare that would have curdled milk, she gave her assent. What Shikamaru said. "I'll be there for you Naruto. We won't leave you alone again." Shino nodded. Naruto nodded back. Through that simple action, volumes were spoken. Shino would be there. Hinata smiled. "Naruto, I will always be there for you. I hope you know that." Naruto smiled genuinely, and it melted Hinata's heart. Instead of the usual fox grin, here was a smile which radiated joy. She nodded once, then got up. "Gomen, Naruto-kun, but it is late, and I must return to bring Neji back to the Hyuga house." The others brought forth similar reasons, and were ushered out by the Hokage, who turned before closing the door, whispering, "Sakura, see me in my office." The Kunoichi started, then smiled widely and ran off to the Hokage tower. Tsunade watched her go, then turned back to Naruto. Tsunade met his gaze evenly, honeyed brown meeting ocean blue. "Told you so," she grinned, shutting the door on Naruto's protest. Naruto stared at the ceiling, having laid down for the night, thinking about what his new friends had just said to him. But mostly, the faces of Sakura and Hinata danced through his mind's eye. He groaned, but the groan quickly turned to a yelp as a small thump shook the room. "What the whaam?" Hey! Naruto spun around to a familiar sight. There, standing atop an enormous toad, was the legendary Sannin himself. "Hi there, Ero Sennin!" Naruto yelled, as Jiraiya fell of the toad. He leapt up to the windowsill, bopping Naruto on the head. "How many times do I have to tell you not to call me that?" Naruto grinned cheekily. "You won't live long enough to get them all," said Ero Sennin. Jiraiya sighed, then sat on the ledge, patting the area next to him. Naruto, taking a hint for once, jumped onto the sill and sat down next to Jiraiya. "So," he boomed, turning to face the 13-year-old Jinchuriki. "How'd you like to leave Konoha for 3 years to train under me?" And with a resounding thump, Naruto landed on the ground outside the hospital. Grumbling, he gathered chakra to his feet and nonchalantly walked up the wall back to where Jiraiya sat, chuckling. My, he thought. The story Tsunade told me was true. Naruto managed to fight an entire battle while utilizing water walking. His control is accelerating rapidly, good thing too, for what I have planned. Jiraiya's laugh turned evil, causing Naruto to elbow him in the ribs. "Nay, Ero-sensei, when do we leave?" Jiraiya's face vaulted at the new title, but decided that at least he had apparently accepted him as his teacher. He grinned. "Naruto, why do you want to become strong?" Naruto looked out at a pitch-black sky filled with stars, and answered, "Because I have to protect my precious people from Orochimaru and Akatsuki." Jiraiya stared in open wonder at the blonde shinobi, who grinned cheekily. "Ero-sensei, I'm tired of acting stupid to get people's attention. I'm more attentive than even you thought, nay." Jiraiya glared at the boy, and then softened his gaze. "That's a good reason, boy. You are truly strong, boy. Maybe there's hope for you yet." He got up and leapt back to the toad, waking it from a peaceful slumber. "Pack your things and meet me by the northern gate tomorrow morning at sunrise." Naruto saluted. "Osu. Oh, wait." Jiraiya turned. "What is it, boy?" Naruto got up, puzzled. "What is true strength?" Jiraiya stared, then burst out laughing. "Oh, my boy," he wheezed. "If you don't know what it is that makes you strong now, when you do realize it, you will be unstoppable." Ha 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 ha. And with that, the toad launched itself into the sky. Naruto climbed back into bed, pondering his new sensei's words. Then, it hit him like a ton of bricks. "I'm going to be trained for 3 years by one of the legendary Sannin," he wondered aloud. He leapt from the vastly uncomfortable hospital bed and jumped out the window silently, his prankster's sense kicking in once more. He dashed across the rooftops silently, heading for his apartment with one thought in mind. Must pack ramen. Kabuto winced as yet another earth-shattering explosion shook the halls of Orochimaru's latest lair. It was that time of the week again, when Orochimaru and Uchiha Sasuke would spar. Orochimaru declared that if Sasuke could survive weekly spars with the snake Sannin, he would truly become strong. Sasuke was like clay in his hands. Honestly, Orochimaru-sama plays that boy like Mozart plays a piano. Kabuto exclaimed aloud. He paused in his scribing of a summoning scroll to wonder just who the hell Mozart was, and why he thought of this person. Kabuto shrugged, and went back to his ink. Orochimaru had asked him that he create a summoning scroll for Kusanagi, as pulling the sword from his mouth created too large of an opening in combat. Also, it would allow his future vessels to wield the sword without having to go through the trial Manda the snake boss set forth, and that was BLAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAA the scroll. With a few hasty seals he cleared it up, and dipped his pen back into the chakra-infused ink. I hate Mondays, he thought bitterly. He could just imagine the scene right now. Orochimaru grinned as Sasuke rose from the floor panting. He was pleased at the boy's endurance, but he knew it was far off from his own, as he had yet to breathe heavily. Their spars consisted of a set pattern. For the first part, only ninjutsu and genjutsu could be used by either one of them. Naturally, this was to increase Sasuke's store of jutsus and increase his hand seal speed. Orochimaru also stipulated that the Sharingan be active at all times, so that Sasuke's body would be used to have it activated at all times, except when he was sleeping and near the point of chakra depletion. Besides, the Sannin thought, I do so love gazing upon the fabled eye. Oh, was that a pun? He shrugged and gathered some chakra into his hands, molding it into water. With barely a thought he thrust the chakra forward to split the fireball Sasuke had launched in his moment of contemplation. This was the other aspect of this duel that Orochimaru insisted upon, learning to mold chakra into the 5 natures rapidly to deflect jutsus. Even though Sasuke could use jutsus of all 5 natures, one could only mold the natures that one had affinity to for the process of blocking a jutsu with pure chakra. Anime and manga. Needless to say, Orochimaru enjoyed flinging air jutsus at the lightning-oriented boy, though every now and then he remembered that he could also mold fire on command. Sasuke on his end gleaned no enjoyment from these duels except when Orochimaru used a new jutsu, which was copied and stored in the Uchiha's Sharingan. Today, he had only seen one, and it wasn't very. Sasuke paused as Orochimaru held up a hand, signaling the end of part 1. Sasuke grinned. This was his favorite part of the day. Taijutsu spar, no other jutsu allowed. It was the one area where Sasuke ever gained an advantage over the Sannin. In the jutsu duels he was constantly surviving, sometimes by the skin of his teeth, but with the Sharingan, he was almost unmatched in taijutsu. The only problem was that Orochimaru knew more taijutsu styles and techniques than he thought fathomable. Sasuke was reminded of this rather forcibly as he was ejected into the air by his sensei's boot. Sasuke groaned. Focus! He mentally screamed, and twisted in midair to block the Sannin's combo. Good, Orochimaru thought. You advance marvelously. He attacked again. Kabuto rolled up the completed scroll, sealed it with a minor jutsu, and put it aside. He then began writing a message to his other benefactors, ones far more powerful than Orochimaru, though that gap was slowly being closed. I hope Itachi still advances in strength. I hate losing bets, Kabuto muttered. Chu. I beg your pardon. It was nothing. Oh. Okay then, said Deidara, swiftly backing away from the red-eyed man who came close to ruling them all. Itachi cursed under his breath. He hated sneezing, it was uncontrollable, and left one wide open to attack by any competent ninja, the only ones worth worrying about. He continued to pace his room back and forth, plotting and planning just how to acquire the Beiyu trapped within Uzumaki Naruto. He recalled his conversation with Kisame just before their first attempt. Anime and manga. You may be able to fight him evenly, but I cannot, Kisame said. You are right, Itachi agreed. Though even if I were to fight him, I would lose. If we both fought him, in the best case scenario we would kill him, but we also would die. Itachi looked up into the sun. Even if we had more men, the result would be the same. Kisame turned to face Itachi. His caretaker is the legendary Sannin. Itachi cursed. For all his power, for all his commander's power, that stupid blonde idiot possessed more than any mortal on earth. Now that he was being trained by Jiraiya-san, he would only learn how to control that power. Once that moment of control came, Naruto-kun's power would increase exponentially as the barrier to controlling his own chakra, which was rapidly assimilating the Kyuubi's chakra, would be torn down. He could kill any one of us that he pleased, he muttered. Then, it hit him like a ton of dango. The idea began to form inside Itachi's mind, and he grabbed it. He took 2, added 2 and got 4, then proceeded to do all sorts of other equally complex mathematics until the finished plan lay in his mind's eye, more beautiful to Itachi than anything he had ever dreamed. Without a second's hesitation he twisted the ring on his finger and teleported to his leader, who was reclining in a chair. Hey Itachi, he greeted, as if he was expecting him. He probably was. Itachi inclined his head, and then said, I have found a solution to the Kyuubi problem. Sharingan stared into the red eyes of the leader. Good. Might I inquire as to what it is? Itachi grinned, and it was more terrifying than anything the leader had ever seen. He wondered just how powerful Itachi was. I'll give you a hint, Itachi said monotonously, thought the grin remained. We need to recover Orochimaru's ring. Red eyes widened, then shut as Itachi's leader threw back his head and laughed. Thwop thwop. Thwop bap 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 bap. Thwop thwop blam. The taijutsu log which Hinata had been pounding away at for the past few seconds shattered under the force of her rapid strikes. Anime and manga. Neji sighed. Hinata-sama, if. Neji, how many times have I told you not to call me that? Call me Hinata Imuoto-chan at least. Hinata cheerfully interrupted. Honestly, for a guy with the best eyes in Konoha, your ears sure could use some tuning. Neji chuckled resignedly. Very well, Hinata Imuoto-chan. But as I was saying, if you keep blowing up Lee's special taijutsu logs, he may very well get mad at us. Hinata grinned uncharacteristically. Mad enough to attack me? She questioned innocently. I wouldn't want that. I've only been trying to get him to fight me for the past 10 weeks. She finished sarcastically. Maybe that grin isn't so uncharacteristic after all, thought Neji. He laughed and said, well, if you must know there's a reason he hasn't accepted your challenge yet. Hinata aired in her breath and stood squarely, hands at her sides. Oh, it wouldn't have to do with the conversation I saw you two having in the forest a few weeks ago. Damn it. Neji cursed silently. Hinata, you were a mile away at the training ground. Did you sneak up on us? Neji's eyes widened when she shook her head, a proud smile gracing her angelic features. Soft blue hair bounced playfully around her head until Hinata stilled her head shaking as she pointed to her eyes. Amazing, Neji whispered. How did you see that far? He wondered aloud. Simple. All you have to do is concentrate the chakra in your eyes and shape it into a fine point in the direction you want to see. Not very useful for combat, but an excellent scouting technique. Hinata finished gleefully. Neji shook his head in wonder. 3 years. 3 years of intense training and Hinata was ready to surpass him. Amazing, Imuoto-chan. But your ears are no better than mine. Hey. And so here's what I said. Lee, if Hinata ever beats me in a spar, we'll accept her challenge. And he said yes. Anime and manga. Hinata's eyes widened as Neji fell into the Juken stance. Well, Hinata-ni-chan. Just how badly do you wish to fight Lee? Wordlessly and motionlessly, Hinata activated her Byakugan. She leapt into motion, hurling 3 kunai at her cousin, who caught one and used it to deflect the others. Wait a minute, he though rapidly. I've seen that opening move before. Naruto. Oddly enough, that name ran through Neji's and Hinata's minds as their hands met in a burst of chakra. Naruto-kun, Hinata thought as she parried Neji's riposte, nimbly spinning around while leaning forward to deliver a vicious kick to Neji's head, which was blocked and turned aside. Naruto-kun, this is for you. Hinata recovered her footing and jumped away as Neji slammed into the ground with a high kick. Both Hyuga had been developing ways to add more moves to the Juken combat style, as it tended to be too one-dimensional. No kicks meant an easy taijutsu opening, one they knew someone likely would be all too happy to exploit. Hinata rushed Neji again, left leading and right held in check behind her back. Her right palm shot forward like a bullet, only to be parried by Neji, who struck back with his right. Hinata smiled and caught his hand with her outstretched left. Neji's eyes widened as she pulled him forward, elbow sailing into his stomach. He oofed as he found himself sailing over Hinata's head as she threw him. He flipped in midair to land on his feet to face Hinata's next charge. She's fast, he thought. Time to take it up a notch. Unfortunately for Neji, the same thought once again ran through Hinata's mind. She met Neji, and the rapid pish-pish of Juken strikes reverberated throughout the training ground. From his vantage point high above the battle, Rock Lee watched as the strikes began to land so rapidly the Hyuga's hands began to blur. Amazing, I am no longer sure who I would like to fight more, my old rival Neji, or Hinata. He returned his attention to notice Hinata hurtling through the air, arm pointed forward like a spear. Anime and manga. Neji grinned and initiated the kaitan. Hinata was flung away, but managed to land on her feet some 20 feet away. Her eyes widened as she observed the crater Neji now stood in. Neji, your kaitan is almost as big as father's, she exclaimed. Neji grinned, and charged Hinata. I'm not all defense, Imuoto. Now it's your turn. He launched a combo, which Hinata, instead of parrying the blows, weaved gracefully in and out of Neji's strikes, causing them all to miss by 3 hairs' breadth. Hinata focused all her chakra, feeling it mold inside her system. She jumped away, and as she predicted, Neji came running forward. Haka Rokuju Yonshu. Divination Shield. 64 strikes. She simply smiled, then shouted out Neji's coffin nails. Shugo Haka Rokuju Yonshu. Guardian of the 8 Seals. 64 strikes. Neji almost halted in surprise. What is this move? It's not in any Juken scroll I've ever read. He had no choice but to begin striking Hinata's tenketsu. Now, Hinata's technique normally created strings of chakra which she, using her unparalleled flexibility, would swing about with feet firmly on the ground. Amazing how observing a simple Gatsuga can inspire. By forcing herself to keep using the technique while at the same time avoiding Kiba and Akamaru's famous attack, she learned to increase the flexibility of her secret move even more. The result was devastating. Neji shot 2 strikes at Hinata in rapid succession, but they were deflected just as quickly, if not faster, by Hinata's chakra lasers. As she spun away, Neji spotted his next targets and struck again. Anime and manga. Hinata halted her spin and swiped upwards, arms almost windmilling, to send Neji's chakra-filled hands upwards as well with repeated hits. Hinata smiled, almost evilly, before whipping her arms towards Neji, using her chakra beams like knives to slice into Neji over and over again, her speed rivaling Lee's Lotus. 64. Hinata yelled, before planting her feet and assuming the Jukan stance once again. Her breathing, heavy and labored, smoothed and became slower. Neji had been blown away by the power of the counterattack. He skidded on his back before coming to a rest. He struggled to a standing position once again, and did a quick self-diagnosis. Almost all of his chakra system had been shredded to hell. Sure, it would repair within a few minutes, but his more powerful techniques would cause his system to temporarily shut down if he tried to use him. He realized that if Hinata wanted to, she could have killed him with that last attack. She must be able to control the keenness and diameter of those chakra beams. Neji thought. He held up his hand just in time to stop Hinata's next charge. I surrender, Imuoto. You win, this time. He finished with a grin. Hinata returned it. Anytime you are ready, Nii-san, so am I. She proclaimed. And I don't take back my words. That's my nindo. Lee chuckled before leaping away. If we were to fight, I can honestly say I have no idea who would win. Amazing, Hinata-san. You have become so strong. Ah, Konoha. You have truly recovered, Tsunade said proudly as she read the day's reports. Konoha's economy was thriving once more, and ninja levels had almost returned to normal. With the assurance of Jiraiya that they were safe from attack for a few years, Tsunade had directed all of her resources towards returning Konoha to its former glory. She leaned back in her chair and produced a bottle of sake, seemingly out of thin air. Pouring herself a cup, she allowed her mind to think back on her latest 3 years as Hokage. She had known the minute Sakura walked into her office that day 3 years ago that she was going to ask to be trained. Tsunade had confronted Sakura after Naruto's departure, and told her that though she didn't expect her to survive, Tsunade would take on Sakura as her apprentice. However, Sakura had done more than survive. She had thrived throughout Tsunade's vicious training, and was approaching the Hokage's level, though she still had a ways to go, especially in terms of stamina. Sakura had always had a weak stamina, and now she had just caught up with the average ninja her age. Average was not a word in Tsunade's vocabulary. She grinned demonically as she thought about the next challenge that awaited Sakura. But Sakura's not the only one who's improving, she mused as she sipped the sweet liquor. All of the genin that Naruto had known and met had advanced in leaps and bounds, though one in particular stood out above the rest. Hyuga Hinata. Whatever was driving that girl, Tsunade wanted some of it. She had gone from being a shy, quiet kunoichi to a fierce, joyful spirit with the strength to back it up. Tsunade had just found out from a very proud Hyuga Hiashi that Hinata had defeated Neji in a duel. Tsunade wondered just how much the Hyuga household had changed after Naruto defeated Neji in the Chunin exam. Neji smiled much more often, and was frequently found laughing with Lee, Hinata, and especially Ten-Ten, though he tended to blush in her company almost as much as he smiled. Hyuga Hiashi also smiled more often, and Hinata had finally gained his approval as well as confidence in herself and her abilities. When Naruto had departed the village at dawn, all the genin he had met, plus Tsunade and Iruka, were there to see him off. Tears in his eyes, Naruto met all of his friends' eyes. I'll come back, and I'll be stronger than ever. That's a promise, he said, holding back sobs. Before he turned to go, Sakura, Lee, and Neji stopped him. Sakura had given him a hug. Come back soon, she whispered, and I'll be stronger. Lee had given him the nice guy pose and a set of white armbands, and Neji had simply smiled and shook his hand. Then, Naruto had waved and dashed off after Jiraiya, who had already started walking. Before he got too far though, Hinata had ran out after him and stopped him again. Before her mind could catch up to her body, she had given him a fierce hug, shoved some ointment into his hands, and ran back to rejoin the others. Naruto had blushed, muttered, "Arigato," and went ahead to Jiraiya, who was shaking his head with laughter. Naruto, Tsunade thought. You change people for the better wherever you go. You'll make a fine Hokage someday. Tsunade pictured Naruto in her position, a mountain of paperwork looming over his blonde locks. She laughed helplessly. Oh well, she thought. Comes with the job. She lifted a toast to the number one most surprising ninja, and downed the rest of the sake. Hinata walked along the road to the Hyuga house, humming a happy tune and gazing at the sky. To say that she had forgotten Naruto would be to say that she had forgotten her Nindo. Instead of letting Naruto fade from her mind's eye, he had intensified. She drew upon the memory of him for strength, and sought to emulate what made her admire him. His confidence, his kindness, his never-ending loyalty and strength. In the end, Hinata fulfilled her wish and changed herself. She had matured into a strong young woman of 16, in many different ways, and was excited by the prospect of Naruto's return. Instead of blushing and fainting, and she was wont to do in his presence, Hinata planned to gain Naruto's attention and trust. Her admiration of him had turned into more than that, but Hinata was not yet ready to face these new, unfamiliar feelings. For whenever she thought of the blonde shinobi, her heart fluttered and ached to be with him once again. She wanted to spend time with him and get to know him better. She wanted to show him that she was strong. Lost in her thoughts, she looked up only to realize that her legs had taken her to the north gate of Konoha, the very same gate by which Naruto had left the village promising to return. She sighed softly, and turned to leave when she heard a rustle from the forest. She spun around, activating her Byakugan, and began to scan the forest, searching for the source of the noise. Narrowing her chakra into a point, she stared at the path leading away from Konoha. Hinduism. She saw two figures, one tall and large, the other just tall. The tall one was rapidly speeding towards her. Hinata squared herself into the Jukan stance and waited for the unidentified person to reach her. When he came into sight and hearing, she almost went back on her word and fainted. For skidding to a stop in front of her was a tall, blonde, muscled young man with a Konoha high tie and 3 pairs of whisker marks on his cheeks. Boy, I sure could use some ramen. He finished lamely as he finally realized who was standing in front of him, eyes wide and mouth open in shock and happiness. Hinata-chan. With a squeal of joy, she ran towards Naruto until she was wrapped into a quick hug by the blonde Hokage-to-be. Naruto-kun. She yelled, muffled though she was by Naruto's chest. Blushing softly, she pulled away to look at Naruto. His deep blue eyes shone with happiness that made Hinata's heart melt. I really missed Konoha, Hinata-chan. He declared happily, eyes twinkling with wisdom far beyond his years. Dizzy with ecstasy, Hinata realized that Naruto was blushing profusely. I gotta run and see the Hokage with Ero-sensei Hinata, but I wanna see all my friends again next. Can you get everyone together and tell them to meet me at Ikeyaraku Ramen? Hinata nodded her head vigorously. Naruto nodded once, then brought his hands together in a ram seal, but he was stopped by Hinata's hand. Naruto-kun. Yeah, Hinata-chan. She thought briefly about asking him why he missed her most of all, more than Sakura-san, even, or of asking him any number of questions, but realized that they would all be answered in time. Instead, she hugged him gently. Welcome back, Naruto-kun, she said softly as she pulled away. Naruto smiled, and Hinata was thrilled to see a genuine smile in place of the fake grin he used to wear. Naruto's hands blurred together and he disappeared even faster. Tsunade lowered her cup in disbelief. Yondaime, she whispered as she saw the tall blonde ninja in front of her, flanked by her old teammate Jiraiya. Hey there Ba-chan. Did ya miss me? Naruto exclaimed. Tsunade could only smile as the tears rolled down her cheeks. Tsunade walked around from behind her mountain of paperwork to get a better look at whom she considered a son. Anime and manga. Spiky blonde locks tumbled in a mass around his head reaching down around his shoulders. A face with high cheekbones accentuated by long, black whisker marks sat on proud shoulders. Deep, wise, blue eyes which shone with happiness gazed back at Tsunade. She noticed absent-mindedly that Naruto seemingly finished growing. All traces of baby fat were gone from his body, and only toned muscle remained. Reaching 6 feet tall, Naruto cut quite a handsome figure. Poor guy'll have to beat the ladies off with a stick, Tsunade thought amusedly. She pulled him into a quick but firm hug. Welcome back, brat, she drawled as she sat back down at her desk. She didn't fool Naruto though, who could see the genuine happiness in her eyes. Well, Ba-chan, crash. With a resounding boom, the door to the Hokage's office blew open. In charged more ninja than Naruto had ever seen in one room. Shino, who was taller and in his new black trench coat looked more mysterious than ever, eyebrows raised at Naruto, who now towered over him. Naruto swore he saw him smile. Lee, still outfitted in his crazy green spandex, immediately assumed the nice guy pose, thumb prominently pointed up. Naruto perceived a buzzing energy about the boy, but couldn't place where it came from. That boy is powerful, Kit, mumbled a deep voice which only Naruto could hear. Yeah, Naruto thought back. He continued his appraisal of the new arrivals. He noted Hinata, absent-mindedly staring at him. He waved, she blushed, and met his eyes, which were already moving. Kakashi was quietly shutting the door, and when he turned around his eye was closed and a grin visible underneath his 2 masks. Ino and Shikamaru stood remarkably close together, but while Ino seemed to be enjoying it, Shikamaru was gazing out the window, presumably at the clouds. Anime and manga. Naruto finally laid eyes on Sakura. Wow, he thought. I've heard of girls changing over the summer, but, wow. Hinata, Sakura, and Ino had done the natural thing in the 3 years Naruto had gone away, they had grown up. They had filled out considerably and were probably looking like they would for the next few decades. Naruto whistled in his mind. He also saw Neji and Tenten, who nodded slightly. Naruto then turned his attention to the group as a whole. He smiled widely. Hi! He shouted, as the others covered their ears. Tsunade hid a smile behind her hand. So, Naruto began, approaching Sakura. Are you strong enough? Not gonna hold me back anymore? He asked playfully as he jabbed her arm gently. The jab never landed as Sakura swung her other hand around to grab Naruto's firmly. Naruto's eyes widened, then almost popped out of their sockets as he was pulled into a bone-crunching hug. Oof! He exclaimed muffedly. I missed you, Dobe, Sakura muttered. She pushed him away slightly, a light blush gracing her cheeks which Naruto dismissed. His friends had huddled together at this point, and broke apart to reveal Shino, Hinata, Shikamaru, Sakura, Ino, Neji, and Lee bearing an ornate wooden box. It was plated with gold, and inscribed on the top was a single word. Uzumaki, Naruto reads silently. We found this one day buried in the archives, Naruto, Tsunade said. They're not sure where it came from, but it does have your name on it. This is your homecoming present, but don't open it here. You'll want to open it when you get settled into your new house. Naruto picked his jaw up off the floor. House, box, anything else I should know about? Well, Neji began, everyone in this room wants to fight you, but other than that not much. He finished grinning. Naruto stared at him as if he had two heads. Yes, Naruto, it's me, Neji. A lot has changed since you were gone, but you'll hear it later. For now, tell us what you did the past few years. Anime and manga. Choruses of, yeah, and, hurry up, assailed Naruto's ears. He glanced out the window, catching a certain white-haired man's eye on the rooftop next door. The white-haired man nodded. Satisfied, Naruto turned around and said, well, grab a seat everyone, because this is a long story. When they did so, he suddenly flared his chakra. The entire office shook with the immense force of Naruto's chakra. So much power was emanating from him that everyone's hair was blown away by the force. Naruto ceased and said, that's the result of my 3-year training. And so he began. As you might already know, Jiraiya of the legendary Sannin took me away from Konoha for a training trip which was to last 3 years. Along the way he outlined his plans. At the end of 3 years, my chakra control would match Tsunade-sama's, my strength and speed would be greater than I could ever imagine, and my stamina would be unmatched by anyone. Naturally, I was excited at first, but soon that feeling evaporated. You don't acquire those skills in 3 years by taking it slow. Ero-sensei ground me into the dirt with control techniques, new ninjutsu, and taijutsu practice every day. This was in addition to the history tutoring I was given along with severe psychological and emotional training. Frankly, it ed. I was trapped between a rock and a hard place. I refused to give up, but I also realized that I would soon die of chakra exhaustion if I didn't do something fast. I asked why we weren't building my stamina, but he always deflected my questions. Then, it happened. Naruto lifted up his shirt, causing the girls to blush at his well-toned abs. He gathered his chakra, amazing them all again at the sheer, controlled power he exhibited. Sakura noticed it first. Hesitantly, she asked, Naruto, where's your seal? He grinned. There's no need for it anymore, he said smugly. They say you shouldn't mess with demons, but I was pretty desperate at the time. I asked myself, who had more chakra than any being known to man? Whose chakra is so powerful that it affects the outside world without even needing to be formed? Who's living inside my stomach? The QB, Sakura whispered. Naruto, QB didn't get loose, did he? Anime and manga. Naruto laughed. No, but he tried. Closest I ever came to dying too, lemme tell ya. They gasped. Neji activated his Byakugan and looked closely at Naruto's chakra system. It seemed perfectly normal, nothing at all like what he witnesses during the Chunin exam. Naruto, what happened to your red chakra? He asked, deactivating his Kekai Genkai. I can't detect any trace of it in your chakra system. Naruto grinned. You'll have to check again, Neji, because I think you're quite mistaken. Puzzled, Neji reactivated his Byakugan, and immediately scrunched his eyes shut. Hinata, wondering what could possibly be causing Neji to cringe, also activated the Byakugan. Before she was forced to close her eyes from the sheer intensity of Naruto's chakra, she noticed its great abundance and its unnatural red color, almost demonic in nature. Hinata, what have I done to my chakra? Naruto asked patiently, knowing she had figured out his secret. She frowned. It seems that you've converted it into this red chakra. I'm not saying you're a demon, Naruto, but that chakra is definitely demonic. Naruto sighed. Well, Hinata, you're correct on every account, including the demon part. Shikamaru frowned. Naruto, you absor. Shush. Naruto interrupted. You'll ruin the story. He complained childishly, causing Sakura to giggle. Oh Naruto, she thought, you've changed so much and yet not at all the best way to change. I basically confronted the Kyuubi in my own mindscape. It was like a big cavern-type room with a giant cage that had a little piece of paper with a seal on it. Ero-sensei had actually just finished telling me how the seal that the Yondaime created was completely unknown. Not even old man Sandaime knew exactly what it did. So I tried to find out. I said, Fox, I want you to try and escape. I'll bet you can't. He laughed. The ancient demon, for all his wisdom, couldn't deny the challenge for freedom. He immediately began slamming against the cage with all his might. But as soon as he did, I tried to gather some of his chakra. Tsunde's eyes widened. Naruto. Naruto turned around and grinned. It's okay Ba-chan, I told you Kyuubi's not loose or anything. He refocused. Basically, as Kyuubi was ripping the cage a new one, he completely missed the fact that I was somehow draining chakra from him. It literally seeped out from the cage and into me. This was like after a year of training, so I had grown a little and my own chakra apparently equaled the fox's. Ero-sensei said something about the seal helping Kyuubi merge with me, yada yada yada. Shikamaru was amazed that even someone like Naruto couldn't appreciate the wisdom of a legendary Sannin. Anyways, Naruto continued, unlike other times when after I accessed the Kyuubi's chakra it would go away, this time it didn't. It stayed inside my own chakra system. It was a really weird feeling, as if I overdosed on soldier pills or something. Anyways, the Kyuubi is getting smaller and smaller, and in this cavern, I'm getting more and more charged on chakra. Thanks to Jiraiya's tortuous control training, I had no problem assimilating the chakra and keeping it there. Eventually the Kyuubi just walked through the bars of the cage and looked up at me with the most evil glare he could muster. Naruto laughed. The only problem was that he was the cutest little nine-tailed fox I ever saw. Everyone tried to imagine a cute little Kyuubi. Everyone did a little throw up in their mouths. Naruto caught the grimaces and hurried on. In a nutshell, I got all of Kyuubi's chakra permanently, and he no longer has any sort of body. He exists only as a consciousness. Sometimes he speaks to me. I think he's warmed up to my cheerful personality. Snort whatever, brat. Naruto went on unperturbed. However, when I tried to summon the chakra, I realized I couldn't get it red. Only normal human chakra was stored in my body, or so I thought. Here's a question. How do ninja use elemental jutsu? Sakura chimed in, the ninja changes the form, or shape, and the nature of the chakra, just like energy can be converted from electricity to sound in a walkie-talkie. Naruto nodded. At first, when Jiraiya taught me techniques I could use water and wind. Now, I can only use wind techniques, but I have an element that no one will ever have. Realization struck Neji. You can form your chakra into demonic chakra. Naruto nodded exuberantly. What's more, it is no longer detrimental to use it. It doesn't hurt me, and it wears me out half as slowly as regular chakra. I think that was another intent of Yondaim's seal, that using my demon's chakra eventually wouldn't hurt me. He smiled widely. All of the techniques known in this room don't equal the amount I know now. Most of them are based on using pure chakra, like Neji's, Hinata's, and Lee's, but I do have a ton of wind techniques. He looked at Lee directly. I want to fight you, fuzzy brows. My taijutsu is incredible now, modesty aside, but I want to see what real taijutsu combat is all about. Shino finally spoke. Naruto, as strong as you are, I honestly don't think you stand a snowball's chance in hell against Lee. Not a single ninja in this village aside from Hokage-sama and Kakashi-sama can defeat him. Lee has finally achieved his goal and defeated Neji, though the battle lasted several hours. Naruto's smile widened, then even more when Neji said, perhaps you should fight me or Hinata-ne-chan first. I'm always game for a rematch, but Hinata just beat me in a duel. Maybe you'd like to try a fight with her. Then he leered. Or are you afraid of hitting girls like Shika-kun? He jibed. Naruto only grinned. Neji, you have no idea how many kunoichi tried to fight me over the past few years. He looked at Hinata, as if to say, well. Hinata was staring at the ground, but when she looked up her eyes were shining and her hands were trembling with anticipation. If you can beat me, Naruto-kun, you can fight Lee-san. Do you agree, Lee, Naruto? Lee smiled. I will gladly face Naruto in the fires of youth if he defeats you, Hinata-san, though after witnessing your battle today I wonder if I will get the chance. Naruto's eyes widened again, but he quickly smiled once more. I accept your challenge, Hinata-chan. See you at the training grounds. He quickly formed the dragon seal, and puffed away. Hinata paled, then looked at her friends. Anime and manga. Does anyone here know how to teleport yet besides Kakashi-sama? Everyone shook their heads while Kakashi chuckled. Hinata, what have you gotten yourself into? He said jovially. Hinata just started for the door determinedly. I don't care, she said. I'm going to show Naruto that I am truly strong. She glanced back at her friends, who hurriedly followed her out the door, followed by Tsunade. This is gonna be good. She thought. After all, it is the Hokage's job to personally know all of her ninja, and Hinata was no exception. Tsunade knew that Hinata would pull no punches in this fight. She wanted to prove to Naruto that she was worthy of his attention. Tsunade checked to make sure everyone had left her office, then locked the door. With a slight grin she whipped her hands into the ram seal and vanished in a puff of smoke. Some minutes later Hinata found herself squared off against the object of her admiration, the blonde shinobi grinning slightly. Ready, Hinata-chan? She nodded. Good. He closed his eyes, and when he reopened them they were bright red. Then let us fight. Naruto disappeared, after tossing his new box to Tsunade, who caught it deftly. He's fast, thought Hinata as she activated her Byakugan. I couldn't even see his afterimage. Suddenly, she spotted something in the trees behind her. She whirled around to focus, and saw dozens of tiny balls of chakra being hurled at her. They were blinding for a moment, but her eyes readjusted to see that Naruto had seemingly thrown a bunch of rocks at her. Rocks with chakra. Oh, Hinata mumbled. In an explosion of smoke, the pebbles burst, revealing to Hinata about 20 shadow clones charging towards her. She smiled and destroyed the first two that reached her before they could react with two well-placed hits. The rest of the clones attacked, and Hinata fended them off. However, whenever she tried to strike one of them again with a burst of chakra, instead of blocking, the clones dodged. And they were fast. But Hinata wasn't stupid. She simply increased her speed until she could match the clones' incredible agility. Still, it took her a while to get rid of them all, and she became extremely worried as to what Naruto had concocted in the time it took. As the smoke from the last exploded clone dissipated, Hinata scanned the surrounding forest frantically, looking for any sign of chakra, when a human-shaped blob of the energy appeared within her vision and began walking towards her. Anime and manga. Hinata turned to face it, a determined look set in her face. She suddenly yelped in pain as Naruto flared his chakra, molding it into demonic form at the same time. The result blinded Hinata and forced her to deactivate her Byakugan. Naruto began to run, no expression visible on his face, as though he had locked his emotions up tight. He reached Hinata leading with his right fist. She simply tilted her head to the left and dodged, bringing up her own palms and concentrating chakra to them. She lashed out with a 1-2 combo to Naruto's left shoulder, but he swatted him away with his left, then sent it flying towards her face. She dropped to the ground, but instead of attempting the customary sweep with her legs, she went into a handstand and spun into a helicopter kick. Unfortunately, Naruto simply caught one of her ankles as he dodged the blows. Hinata's eyes widened as she was lifted off the ground, Naruto still only using one hand. He then brought his other hand to hold her leg as he slammed her ruthlessly into the ground. Hinata's breath whooshed out of her. Reactivating her Byakugan, she quickly rolled to the side and flipped back to stand, dodging the Rasengan Naruto had just aimed at her. Meanwhile, their friends watched with something close to horror. Naruto has been in control of this fight the whole time, Tsunade wondered. Neither of them has even really started to fight, but Naruto has been absolutely ruthless. He's truly become a shinobi, but I hope his heart is still as big as ever. Anime and manga. Tsunade was brought out of her musings by a resounding crash as Naruto slammed into a tree, bending it in half. Hinata released a slow, even breath and settled back into a ready stance, having just used her guardian hacker to fling Naruto away. 1-1, thought Lee. Now the real battle begins. Show me your strength, Naruto. Naruto shook himself, much like a dog getting dry, then showed his first emotion since the battle started. He grinned. Sorry Hinata. I know you're strong and everything, but I really want to fight Lee. I'm gonna end this now. Hinata stared at Naruto as a small smile spread across her face. Naruto, I'm disappointed in you. Naruto's grin evaporated like water in the desert. You've always said to never underestimate someone, yet here you are thinking Lee is stronger than I am, Hinata continued. Well, she disappeared to reappear right in front of Naruto, palm buried in his stomach. I am. She finished triumphantly. Naruto puffed out of existence. Hinata paled and jumped straight up as a hail of shuriken shot from out of the surrounding woods in a perfect circle, with Hinata its center. As soon as she was airborne, more shuriken flew out of the trees seeking Hinata. I've never tried hacker in midair before, she mused quickly. She began flipping in midair, activating her chakra beams to slice apart the impending shuriken. Once they were all gone, Hinata landed safely to find Naruto 5 meters away. There's a reason Kage Bunshin is a kinjutsu, a forbidden technique, he began. Hinata cut him off by shooting a chakra beam directly at his heart, hoping secretly he would dodge the lethal blow and only be injured in another area. He took it straight on and disappeared. Hinata spun around to see Naruto, or a clone. She wondered wildly, standing again not 5 meters away. Anime and manga. Everything a clone does during its lifespan is transferred to the originator once it is dispelled, he continued, as he was never interrupted. Also, clones have their own chakra system and all the accessories of the original. Train them to dodge an enemy's attack, and you have a personal soldier. He grinned. The only problem was that, up until me, no one had enough chakra to use it liberally. Now, Naruto left it hanging in the air. Hinata returned Naruto's smile. Well, then I'll just have to find the original the hard way, she said happily. Naruto's eyes widened as Hinata raced through a few seals. When she finished, dozens of Hinatas shimmered into existence around her. Naruto laughed. Water clones made directly from water vapor. It takes almost no chakra, too. That's amazing, Hinata-chan. He closed his eyes briefly, and opened his new red ones. As if on cue, his veritable army of clones emerged from the forest to gather behind Naruto. With a seal they were dispelled. Hinata did the same. Their audience was frozen. The final showdown was about to begin. Naruto raised his hand before Hinata could charge him. Hinata, he began. Hinata started at the absence of the recently added chan suffix. She waited, breath held in. Naruto set his face into a mask of expressionless features. Don't hold back anymore, he warned, and shot forward. Hinata nodded, matching his stride. As one they attacked, fluidly blocking the other's fists and palms as they struck one another. Naruto pivoted on his back foot and suddenly stopped, shooting his foot out towards Hinata's stomach. She could only spin away as the blow whipped by her. Had she tried to catch it, she probably would be on the ground spitting up blood. She recovered, and they began the deadly dance once again, Naruto enhancing his speed and strength with demonic chakra, Hinata using her Byakugan and Juoken. Individual blows became meaningless. For a few minutes, there was only strike, strike, parry, riposte, parry, and strike again. Sometimes blows were not even finished, hands touching gently before being whipped into the next attack. Naruto began to alter his attacks, trying to lead Hinata to shift to the left. She did, and he flipped over her head suddenly, spinning at the same time to kick the back of her head. With cat-like reflexes and the aid of the Byakugan, she flipped forward in time to bring her foot to meet his, propelling both of them away. They landed several meters apart. Hinata, panting slightly, was amazed that Naruto had yet to take a deep breath. His battle stamina is incredible. I have to take it up to the final notch now, she decided. Hinata began forming seals slowly and deliberately, slowing her breathing to normal. Naruto stared calmly as she brought her hands together in the final dragon seal, and then brought her hands straight out away from her body and pointing away from each other, like she was going to start flapping. Naruto examined her palms closely, and noticed a slight glow. His demonic vision was able to see Hinata's ninjutsu activate, and then he didn't need it. Visible chakra beams were emitting from her palms, but extended only a few feet out. They also did not dissipate. Naruto suspected that her seals enabled her chakra to have a greater permanence. Hinata opened her eyes, Byakugan meeting demonic sight. Naruto-kun, you cannot escape this attack no matter how fast you are. Please surrender. Naruto sighed. Hinata-chan. Hinata perked up at the sound of the added chan. I no longer wish to win. Now, I wish to fight. He finished with a smile. Naruto's chakra flared again, and Hinata briefly wondered if she had gotten in over her head. She brushed the thought aside and concentrated on Naruto's latest technique. Remember how I said most of my new techniques were chakra manipulation? He asked. Hinata nodded. Well, 9 chakra, tails was the best word Hinata could come up with emerged from Naruto's body. They looked corporeal, but she noticed they were slightly transparent. So it's that chakra that can directly affect the physical world without needing additional molding, Hinata realized. Naruto's body began to glow an eerie red. He charged Hinata once again. It was all she could do to block Naruto's chakra appendages. What she lacked in quantity, she made up for with her fluid flexibility. She nimbly commanded her body to weave in and out of Naruto's strikes, while managing to counterattack every now and then. However, she knew that she would lose. Naruto was too fast, too strong, too powerful, too smart. She should surrender and just. No. I will not give up. Naruto will never respect me if I give up now. With renewed vigor, Hinata swept away Naruto's tails and with a flurry of slashed cut as many apart as she could. When she spun around to face him again, she was delighted to see that he couldn't replace them right away, and was left with only 2. He grinned. Scorpion style. 2 tails. He arched his remaining tails over his head, just like a scorpion's stinger. Hinata began to frantically weave a shield as he began to strike with pinpoint accuracy at her body, tails speeding in and away like bullets. Naruto had his concentration solely on his attack, but he still noticed the incredible control Hinata had to create this shield. Obviously she had left most of their friends behind in terms of strength, but how? Suddenly, Naruto remembered the words Haku, the deceased Nukanon from the mist that Kakashi had inadvertently slain in their battle with the demon of the mist, Zabuza of the 7 shinobi swordsmen. Do you have someone important that you wish to protect? Haku had asked innocently. Yeah. I have a few precious people, yeah. Naruto had asserted. Haku smiled. Work hard to protect them, fight for them, and you will become truly strong. Truly strong, Naruto muttered as he directed his attacks to the center of Hinata's shield. His tails were regenerating quickly. They would be ready to come out again soon. Hinata had obviously found someone precious to fight for, but whom? Naruto felt a slight twinge in his heart that he couldn't even begin to identify. Shrugging the feeling aside, he concentrated briefly, and then exploded in a burst of chakra as 7 tails blew forth from his body to Hinata's shield on the sides. Hinata, who had focused her energy to protecting against the frontal attacks, whipped her body around to try and shield her flanks. Yes, I can do this. I can. She realized that the attacks were a feint a moment too late. With a cackle, pop, and a rush of air, her chakra weave was disintegrated as Naruto's 9 tails suddenly shot in unison towards her center one last time. She yelled as they nailed her sternum, the force sending her backwards. She hit the brakes, a tree, and slid down, dazed. She felt cold metal touch her neck, and smiled resignedly up at Naruto, who had gently placed the kunai at her neck. She was pleased to note that he was breathing extremely heavily. Hinata-chan, I haven't fought that hard in weeks. You are amazingly strong. I've never had to use that kind of controlling technique in battle before. Naruto inhaled, then finished. I have to ask, though, who drove you to become so strong? Hearing Naruto ask this and not wanting to reveal that it was him all along, Hinata blushed profusely. Naruto was puzzled at this reaction, and wondered why his heart was slowly breaking. Anime and manga. The awkward moment was interrupted by applause. Naruto smiled his typical foxy grin and helped a still blushing Hinata up to greet the cheers of, "Amazing." And, "That was incredible." Naruto, however, was focused on two faces alone. Sakura was staring at him, tears pouring down her cheeks as she beamed at him. He smiled back at her. Lee was positively trembling. "What's the matter?" Fuzzy brows. "Are ya scared?" Naruto gestured. Lee met Naruto's gaze with a look of intense fire. "Naruto, I see that the fire of youth burns strongly within you. Take a short break. I will fight you in 1 hour." He finished, thumb pointed up prominently. Naruto grinned. "I've been waiting for this for a long time, Lee." Lee nodded. Naruto stood across from Lee in the training ground, having had a quick nap. Thanks to his assimilation of the Kyuubi, he was perfectly rested after his nap. Lee began by warning Naruto. "Naruto, as you know, my strength comes from my rigorous training, and is also its downside. If I ever take more than 1 day's rest, my skills begin to deteriorate." He smiled wildly. "Which is why that never happens. I still can't use genjutsu, or even ninjutsu, but I have finally learned why not." Naruto's eyes widened. I have a Kekai Genkai, Naruto-kun. One just as powerful as your blood limit. You saw my Chunin match 3 years ago, yes?" Naruto nodded dumbly. "Well, when I used the gates then, it hurt. A lot. As you know, I almost had to give up my life until Hokage-sama," at this point he bowed in her direction, "saved my Nindo." He smiled. "Naruto, put simply, my bloodline is a bit of a mutation. It allows me, through rigorous training and then a 24-hour period of meditation, to have the gates open and life open permanently." Lee waited as the implications hit Naruto. He grinned. "So your chakra," Lee nodded, "allows me to use this chakra for taijutsu techniques, at the risk of being redundant." He assumed his Guken stance. "Are you ready, Naruto-kun?" He shouted. "Lee-san, I'm only gonna use taijutsu, no fancy tales. But I'm warning ya, my demonic chakra might just beat your gates." Naruto exclaimed, molding his demonic chakra. Red eyes met bushy brows. As one, they disappeared. They met in the center with a resounding explosion, then disappeared. Hinata and Sakura slowly walked back to the training ground. They had went into town to grab a bite to eat because, frankly, they were starving. The others had followed suit, but they had all ended up at different restaurants. Now, they trickled back to the training ground, sometimes having to duck as green-black blurs whizzed over their heads, accompanied by a sonic boom or two. "Naruto-kun and Lee are amazing," Hinata exclaimed as they crashed through the trees above their heads yet again. "I see now why Neji-ni-san was so adamant about me not fighting Lee. I'm good at taijutsu, and my techniques are as good as Neji's, but they're so fast." Anime and manga. Sakura could only nod dumbly as Hinata waxed eloquent about Naruto's ability. She half listened, half wondered just where she stood concerning the blonde's affections. "I hope it's not too late," she wondered. "I hope I still have a chance." Sakura glanced sideways at Hinata, who had stopped, having reached the training area. Her mouth hung open, and Sakura's did the same when she realized what she was looking at. The training area was more like the surface of the moon, now. Craters pockmarked the area, as if a Western war had taken place there. Shino, Shikamaru, and Ino had also just arrived, displaying similar reactions. Tsunade was the last to return from her lunch break, and was followed by almost every ninja in the village who had seen her in the streets of Konoha and wanted to know just what the hell was going on. She smiled as they laid eyes on the carnage and destruction. One of them spoke up, "But Hokage-sama, who is fighting?" His answer came in the form of an earthquake as Naruto slammed into the ground, presumably having just been caught in Lee's secondary lotus. Lee landed nimbly a few meters away, albeit panting heavily. He assumed the Guken stance as Naruto climbed out of the hole to stand firm facing Lee. Lee threw back his head and laughed. "Naruto-san, I have never had more fun fighting anyone. Not many can take a lotus and come back for more, but you have taken 4. Gasps accompanied Naruto's response. "Honestly, Lee, the same goes for me. Your endurance is incredible. I was sure I snapped at least all of your bones with that one combo, but you just shrugged it off." He was grinning wildly, both were panting heavily. "You would too, after a 3-hour spar." Naruto looked up and saw that the clouds were streaked with red and purple. Focusing on Lee, he said, "Lee, normally I'd say let's call it quits, because you shouldn't spar in the dark, someone could get hurt." Lee nodded, but smiled when he saw Naruto prepare to charge. "But I can't give up now. Let us end this." Naruto blinked away, but this time when they met in the center, they did not instantly warp away at top speed. What proved to be their last skirmish lasted all of 10 seconds, but to Kakashi's new Mangekyo Sharingan, it was as 10 minutes. Anime and manga. He watched as Naruto's fist was deflected by Lee's backhand, which became a fist headed for Naruto's chin. He watched as Naruto's head fluidly moved to the side as he placed his hand on the ground to gain leverage for a massive kick. He watched them move like water in a tempest, furious and powerful, yet with a calm deliberateness that chilled his bones. He briefly wondered that Naruto could probably defeat him, if he really tried. Kakashi and the rest of the spectators watched as after 10 seconds of blurry action, Lee flew backwards. He stopped his momentum with his feet, and then reversed direction as he shot back towards Naruto. Naruto smiled as Lee came on. He remembered Jiraiya's words as he practiced his assassination techniques. "Do not disregard simple moves. They work." As Lee came, he feinted a block, then sidestepped swiftly, brining his arm straight out in Lee's path, charging it with demonic chakra. Lee never saw it coming. Naruto's clothesline, combined with his high speed, sent him windmilling in midair until his head halted his motion by slamming into the ground. As Lee's body came to rest, Tsunade, Sakura, Hinata, and Matogai came out from the crowd. Lee smiled up at his lifelong mentor. "Though I lost, Guy-sensei, how was I?" Guy smiled. "You were marvelous, Lee. Once again, I am amazed at the fire of youth that burns within you." Naruto watched amused as Lee nodded, satisfied, and promptly lost consciousness. Naruto laughed. Some things never changed. Anime and manga. Speaking of change, Tsunade approached him. "That was amazing, brat. Let Sakura heal your wounds, then get your butt back to my office. We have a few things to discuss." Naruto nodded, allowing Sakura's green healing chakra to take care of the many wounds he had received from Lee. "Hey, Hinata." Hinata looked up at Naruto, who now had acquired a puzzled look. It was quickly replaced by one of contentedness. "Hinata, would you come with me to Aba-chan's office? I want to talk to you about some things." Naruto trailed off. Hinata nodded, smiling. "Of course, Naruto-kun. You were amazing, by the way." Naruto matched her grin. "Thanks, Hinata-chan. And thank you, Sakura-chan, for healing me. I feel great." Did Aba-chan teach you this? Sakura grinned. Naruto, you are the only one I know who gets away with calling Tsunade Shushu that. Yes, I was Tsunade-sama's apprentice for the past few years. I learned a bit more than just medicine, though. She flexed a muscle experimentally, then slammed a fist into the tree next to them, obliterating it. Naruto paled. Note to self: don't piss off Sakura-chan ever again. Well, I'd best be going. Bye, Sakura-chan. Naruto exclaimed nervously, pulling Hinata with him edgily. Sakura smiled sadly, and turned around to go home. As she walked, her sad smile became a look of pure determination. No, I won't lose you, Naruto. Not like I lost Sasuke. Not again. Hinata looked down as she walked beside Naruto, who had yet to talk about anything at all. Tell him, you baka. You've got to tell him now, or else he'll forget. But as she steeled herself, Naruto suddenly asked, Hinata-chan, I don't mean to pry, I really don't, but, how are things going with the Hyuga? Hinata almost collapsed. So that was what Naruto was concerned about. She remembered what Neji had told her from the third Chunin exam. And he said, if you think it's so pointless, don't do anything. When I become Hokage, I'll change the Hyuga for you. Neji finished, eyes staring at a bird which flew lazily about overhead. Hinata smiled. You really changed Neji, Naruto-kun. After his defeat, my father went to him. My father told Neji the secret of his father's death, and it changed both of them. From that day forward, my father became much more pleasant and happy. I hadn't seen him smile since my mother's death so long ago, but now he smiles all the time. And I have you to thank, Naruto-kun, Hinata finished. Father even changed the seal on the branch family. It only seals away the Byakugan. It can't be used to hurt them anymore. Naruto was smiling widely at this point. Arigato, Hinata-chan, I'm just glad I could help. He paused. You said your mother died. What happened? If you don't. Hinata smiled. No, I don't mind Naruto-kun. After all, you shared a great secret with me. The least I can do is tell you about my mother. Naruto smiled. She was a beautiful woman with long, blue hair and shining eyes filled with kindness. She was not a ninja, but she was one of the best doctors the hospital had. Everyone loved her, especially my father. They met after my father was injured on a particularly dangerous mission. My mother was tending his wounds, and when he woke up, he said he thought an angel was tending his wounds. Hinata giggled. My father told me that when he told my mother that later, she blushed so hard she almost fainted. I guess that's where I get it from, Hinata finished thoughtfully. Anime and manga. Naruto's eyes widened. He had never heard Hinata admit her shyness before. Maybe it wasn't a problem anymore. Hinata continued, eyes moist. My mother and father married soon after. They were extremely happy, but after Hanabine-chan's birth, she became very ill. It turned out that she picked up a disease from one of the hospital patients, who had died a few days earlier. There was nothing the doctors could do, and my mother. Hinata never finished. She burst into tears and buried her face in her hands, sobbing. She felt her legs give away, and remained upright. Hinata became aware of two very strong and firm arms encircling her, keeping her upright, lending her strength. She opened her eyes slightly to see soft black cloth. She looked up, and met blue eyes which shined with compassion and tears of their own. It hurts, doesn't it? Naruto whispered. The pain of loneliness hurts so much. He wiped away his tears, then brought a hand down to cup her cheek. But I'm here for you, Hinata-chan, he said as he wiped away her tears with his thumb. You can always count on me. I won't abandon you. I promise. I promise by my Nindo. Hinata giggled. He was so Naruto. And your Nindo is to never go back on your word, nay. That's my Nindo too. Naruto's eyes widened. It is. Hinata nodded smiling. Arigato, Naruto-kun. I feel better than ever before, as if a great weight had been lifted off my chest. She pulled away reluctantly. I know Tsunade wants to see you and give you a mission, but tomorrow, will you meet me at Ichiraku's at 3? There's something I want to talk to you about. Naruto smiled. Of course, Hinata-chan. See you tomorrow. He watched as she leapt away. He began to run towards the Hokage's office, blushing. Man, that was so lame. I hope Hinata-chan doesn't think I'm a loser or anything. He realized that his legs had taken him to Tsunade's office. He began to knock, reconsidered, and simply opened the door, as if he owned the place. Tsunade smiled. Get to bed, brat. I want you to at the Forest of Death training ground at 8 o'clock sharp. Naruto gulped. What for? Tsunade smiled evilly. Survival test. Surviving what? Naruto wondered how such a kind woman could look so evil. He realized why with her next words. Surviving me. Naruto paled. I'd get some rest, if I were you, brat. You'll need it. As Naruto headed out stiffly, she couldn't resist calling out, oh, and don't eat any breakfast unless you want to puke all day. You can make up for it later when you meet Hinata-chan at Ichiraku's. She laughed as she heard Naruto fall down the stairs in shock, cursing.